I'm now delighted to introduce Chris Fitzpatrick. Chris is the Sustainability Engagement Coordinator at the City of Sydney, with sort of an extraordinary overview over a number of different sustainability initiatives that the City of Sydney has been undertaking, which really do make it one of the leading councils here in Australia. Chris, I'm delighted to let you share your screen and tell us more about what you're doing.
Great, thank you, Robin. So can I just get verbal confirmation that my screen is being shared?
It is visible, thank you.
Great. I've also got problems with my camera, so sorry if my image freezes in an ugly pose. Anyway, so I'm Chris. As Robin mentioned, I work at City of Sydney. We've got, just been told my video stopped working. So we've got a sort of flagship program called the Sustainable Destination Partnership, and that's a industry collaboration with tourism, hospitality sector operators. It's basically the hotel sector and then the large venues and cultural institutions. I'll also be talking in this presentation about the Love Food Sydney initiative, which was run over the last couple of years. And just moving on. So first up, I'll just run through the strategic context and give an overview of City of Sydney's targets that are relevant to food waste. I'll then do a bit of a quick overview of the SDP, and I will refer to it as the SDP just for brevity. Just a quick overview of the program itself and the partners and some of the projects. I'll then highlight two key initiatives. One's the roadmap to halving food waste by 2026, and then the other one was the collaborative sort of effort with the Love Food Sydney program. I'll round out with two case studies, one of a big organisation and one of a small retail operation. So City of Sydney, we've got some pretty aggressive targets around, in particular, carbon and waste. We've also obviously got water targets and other environmental sustainability targets, but I just wanted to sort of highlight these two. So we've got, by 2030, we want a 70% reduction in emissions from 2006 baseline, and we're aiming for net zero by 2035. Importantly, that's the entire local government area. So it's not just City of Sydney and our own operations. It's every resident, it's every business, it's all the visitors, everything. So pretty ambitious, but I think we're sort of positioning ourselves to get there with the help of the commercial sector in particular, which is sort of the focus of this presentation. 90% diversion from landfill of all commercial and industrial waste. Again, I've sort of highlighted that because it is relevant to the SDP as a program. So the partnership itself, as I mentioned, there's 32 members. There's about 10 associate members. These are the sort of main members, the industry partners. 32 partners are responsible for, I believe it's 72 buildings within the local government area. And they're pretty big buildings. They've all got, well, for the most part, they've got commercial kitchens. They are, very much involved in the food waste avoidance space. And they, in the SDP, we have working groups, and one of the working groups has always, since the program started in 2018, sort of had a focus on waste in particular, and they deliver projects in collaboration with some of the associate members that we have that have special sort of fields. And one of those projects that I'll highlight here is our roadmap to halving food waste by 2026. This was developed, basically led by Oz Harvest, which is an associate member to the partnership, working in collaboration with partners such as the Intercontinental Hotel. And they mapped out this roadmap, which basically sets out the sort of trajectory that we want to get on. The plates along the bottom there showing the 2-year increments leading to that halving food waste by 2026. So importantly, it's not just about halving food waste. There is still also a focus of diverting food waste from landfill. I've got a link to this roadmap later in the presentation, so I won't dwell on it in too much detail, but just to give you an indication of the sort of tangible stuff that comes out of the SDP as a group. Secondly, probably the key initiative that we've had over the last couple of years is the Love Food Sydney project that was a grant-funded project that was supported by the EPA. We had a full-time staff member join our team, Emily Keegan. She ran this project for the best part of 2 years, I think. This is just a little snapshot of some of the social media coverage that the program got. So the program basically delivered food waste training to commercial kitchens, and the way that the program did that was it basically just did a bit of hand holding and gave the kitchens the ability to gather data on where the food waste was coming from. So you can see there the buckets and the scales, and they were able to then figure out the proportions of waste coming from those three areas, and they could then, accordingly implement actions to make savings there. So the program helped these businesses develop an action plan there that you can see on the right. As I said, we had 1,500 people go through this training. Some businesses put all of their staff through the training. It was developed by Edge Environment, and Robin was involved in the learning platform, development of the learning platform, I believe. So it was basically run in 2 modules. And the first module was for everybody working within a business. So everyone from the kitchen, front of house, chefs, kitchen staff, everybody. And this is where they basically had an introduction to the benefits of reducing food waste and how to encourage other people to act on food waste avoidance. Module B was a bit more in-depth, and it was mainly around the chefs, the cooks, the kitchen staff and managers. This is where they actually learnt the practical steps to conduct a food waste review and implement the actions. So just a couple of case studies to finish up. The Amora Hotel, Jamison, Sydney, which is down at Wynyard. It's a 5-star hotel, give or take. There's about 300 rooms. So it's a pretty big hotel. And they joined Love Food Sydney basically through their connection with the Sustainable Destination Partnership. So it's a sort of good example of us working with our programs to sort of leverage off each other, I guess. The Amora Hotel identified the top 3 actions and the top 3 learnings, and this is where it gets interesting, I think. So for the hotel, the top 3 actions were keep a controlled inventory, find new ways to use leftovers, and partner with other organisations such as My Green Butler or Oz Harvest. So you can see there that this is, a pretty large scale commercial kitchen. So, keeping a controlled inventory, I think, was one of the tactics that Susie mentioned. Finding new ways for leftovers. I really like this one. So they had a butter chicken dish that became chicken biryani for staff meals later in the day or late at night. So they were very, focused on how they could sort of get their own house in order. And this all happened during COVID. So they put the entire organisation, everybody from administrators, accounts, hotel management, everybody went and did this training. So they really embedded food waste avoidance in their culture through this initiative. They found that it obviously allowed them to focus inwards, but it also enhanced teamwork by getting everybody on board. And it also allowed them to measure the impact and then communicate that with external stakeholders as well. Now, just finally, the final case study is Butter, which is a very cool little restaurant in Surrey Hills. It's a sort of hip hop street fashion chicken shop, which is it's great. Again, top 3 actions for this smaller retail food and beverage outlet. Firstly, to create a small, concise menu. So just not having too many sort of disparate ingredients all over the kitchen, going off. Secondly, making food daily to avoid spoilage. So just not having as much sort of leftover stuff in the fridge overnight. And thirdly, to use food close to its due date for staff meals. So, obviously avoiding health and safety concerns, but, using that sort of end of life food for staff meals in a creative way. In terms of the learnings, so Butter, they really sort of found that the partnerships that they forged with local suppliers allowed them to be more nimble and flexible with their menu and with their stocking their kitchen. Also, just the top, well, probably what should be the top learning is just get started. Find a way to educate people on the importance of food waste avoidance, and find a small step to take, and just start small, but start now. Thirdly, working together with other neighbourhood businesses to combine pickups, and therefore minimise the carbon footprint of the pickups and the cost of the pickups as well. So some good learnings there from a smaller outlet. That's about it for me. I've got some links here just to some of those pages. I've got my contact details here. Happy to chat to people in the Q&A or offline. That's about it for me. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. That was amazing to hear that sort of overview of what the City of Sydney is trying to achieve, and then to go into more detail and to finish on those 2 case studies looks truly amazing. It was interesting to note earlier, and I know I worked on parts of the project with Edge Environment, but to hear those elements of organisational commitment and engaged staff and measurement and action all coming together, I think is a really good reminder that, it's not just one thing or great technology, it's all of those things happening together that really comes together. Thank you for those links at the end as well. We'll circulate the information afterwards.